Hi, everyone. David Aragona and Mike Beer here, taking a look at the first of many graded stakes races that will take place on Travers Saturday at Saratoga. Race 7 is the Grade 2 Lake Placid, this one going the 1 mile distance on the inner turf for the 3-year-old fillies. Before we get into an intense discussion of this race, though, let's mention that we did launch a podcast recently at DRF. It's called Off the Track. It's hosted by Gino Piccola. I mean, that's had some really interesting guests on recently, interviewing racing personalities like Kendrick Carmouche, Mark Casse, Katie Davis. I believe he's going to have trainer Doug O'Neill on a recent episode. So definitely check out Off the Track on the Daily Racing Farm YouTube channel or any platforms where you get your podcasts. Mike, 6 runners signed on for this Lake Placid, and it's a pretty competitive race. No real standouts in this field. The number 1, Play With Fire, goes out for the Chad Brown stable. He typically has some bullets to fire in this race, but only entering 1 this year. I think the allure of Kentucky Downs coming up in a couple weeks is maybe taking a few horses that would be running here away from this spot. But I don't think that there's anybody in this race that I'm that scared of.
Yeah, that's how I looked at it too. I mean, listen, there's still a lot to prove for just about everybody in here. So I think that made it an intriguing race and maybe one that leaves it open to, some of the horses that might be better prices in here. I have no problem with Play With Fire, being looked at as the horse to beat and being the horse that you made the favorite on the morning line.
Yeah, one of the aspects of this race that's tough to read is the pace, because you go through this field and there's not much speed signed on. 6-horse field, sometimes you get these turf races where nobody really wants to go. It turns into a rider's race. I do agree with the pace projector that if anybody's going to find themselves in front, it probably is the number 5, Scarlet Sands. That no speed designation is showing up because I guess the pace projector is not really reading her as a speed horse, because she really isn't, Mike. I mean, she just kind of found herself on the front end last time in a synthetic race, but she hasn't gone to the lead in any of her turf races. But in this spot, probably her best chance to just go to the front and try to back the pace down.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see why they wouldn't at least try it. I think you made her the longest shot on the board here as far as the odds go, and there's nobody else to really go with her here. I'm with you. I agree with the pace projector that she's most likely to be on the early lead, and I also agree that the 1, Play With Fire, who is a horse who's been doing some closing, she's not a slow horse early and being drawn to the rail. I think she's going to be. I think there's a chance that she gets a really good trip in this race.
Now, the one point I would make with regard to a specific horse in this pace projector is that the one that I think could be really disadvantaged is the number 6, Raining Flowers, because she's sort of one-dimensional closing type that really needs pace, and I'm not sure that she's going to get it here, but we'll talk about that when we get to her in just a little bit. Let's begin our discussion with the number 1, Play With Fire, and we'll take a look at her most recent start when she just missed in the Wild Applause to Classic Q, who's been in great form for trainer Mark Casse. Classic Q is a horse that went pretty honest. It seemed like Play With Fire had dead aim at her after saving ground on the turns, tipped out at the top of the stretch. I thought she was going to run by at the 16th ball, but she never quite gets there as she hangs on that left lead through the late stages. Still, she was facing a better horse this day. This is probably a slight drop in class for her, and I could make the argument she is the horse to beat.
Yeah, that's how I looked at it too. I agree with your assessment of her most recent race. I don't think I was thrilled with it, but it's not like she ran terribly in there against a horse that just might be better than anything she's facing here. And I just, aside from that, David, I just really liked her form before that. I think she's a good horse. And, I know that she closed when she won the stakes race at Pimlico 2 starts back. They just took her back to last and she won. But I don't think that's her running style. I think she's way handier than that. She proved that in her debut. I thought she proved it in the Keeneland Allowance race too. I mean, that was a really fast pace. And I just think her rider moved way too early that day and got her beat.
And she drew a great post here for a horse that has some tactical ability. The number 2, Eponine, is sort of the wild card of this race, coming in from Europe for a trainer that I'm personally not too familiar with, but it does feel like she's a private purchase because she's showing up owned by Rapoli stable, so maybe we'll see her transferred into the Todd Pletcher barn after this. I guess that remains to be determined. We'll check out some reporting on that from our colleagues Dave Grenning and Mike Welsh, who cover Saratoga. But Mike, this horse has run some good races over in France. I mean, she was second in a Group 2 back in early June. I kind of have a tough time getting a read on her when I watch those races because she's got some tactical speed. She typically sits close to the pace. Seems like she's a grinding type. She's a little one-paced at the end. She kind of lacks that turf turn of foot, but maybe she's one that could be somewhat forward in here.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. If you go back and watch any of her turf starts anyway, over there, you can see that she's pretty adaptable. I mean, they've raced her up close to the pace in a lot of her races, but that first start on the grass in April, that was a pretty solid pace they were going in there, and they just sort of let her sit back and make her run through this race. So I feel like she's adaptable in that way. I also had trouble sort of gauging how good I think she is. I mean, I didn't think she ran particularly well in any one of those races, but maybe they're just shipping her over here, David, and finding a pretty good spot for her. It's not like she's facing a super strong field here.
Yeah, I will say I use the Timeform USPPs where you can access the Timeform ratings. The Timeform ratings suggest that she is very competitive with this field.
Yeah.
I had trouble getting there myself looking through the competition, but we'll see if she can hang with these American foes. The number 3, Mayday Ready, is a horse that was really good during her 2-year-old season. She won the first 3 starts of her career, including a couple of stakes, and she was hardly disgraced when she tried the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies Turf last season, finishing second to the very good European shipper Lake Victoria, and actually finishing ahead of Nitrogen, who has now really proven herself to be the best 3-year-old filly, maybe on dirt or turf at this point in the season. Now, Mike, they went over to Japan. That didn't work out. That's a tough feat to pull off no matter what age you are, especially for a 2-year-old. And since coming back for her 3-year-old season, I think you can make excuses for her because she obviously got rained off the turf in the Wonder again. She's not a dirt horse. And then they tried the Belmont Oaks, a pretty tough spot for her return to turf for her first start on grass in a long time. She hopped up at the start. She was a little out of position early, tried to make a wide run, and that was also a really tough spot for her. So I think she's getting some class relief, and getting back to the mile should work for her.
Agree with everything that you just said. I don't really have anything to add to it. She was really, not only was she really good as a 2-year-old, but she was underrated as a 2-year-old. Just ran one good race after another against really good competition too. You know, her Belmont Oaks last time is fine. It was a really awkward start for her there, and maybe left her even further out of position than she needed to be, but she still ran in that race. I don't know. She makes a lot of sense in here, in my opinion. I think she's going to be pretty tough to beat.
And I'll just mention, I mean, nothing against Frankie Dettori. He's given this horse some good rides, but it does not hurt to get Jose Ortiz aboard, who is vying for becoming the leading rider at this Saratoga meet. The number 4, Warming, is another horse that's coming out of the Belmont Oaks, where she faced tougher competition that she's going to be meeting here in the Lake Placid. And Mike, it might have just been asking too much too soon for her first stakes attempt going around distance, because while she did win that allowance at Delaware very impressively, she was not meeting anything close to the caliber of foes that she faced in that Belmont Oaks last time, and she tried pretty hard through the stretch. I mean, she lost a little momentum coming off the turn. Overall, I was hoping to see her finish a little better that day, but this might just be a better spot for her.
Yeah, I agree with all that stuff too. I mean, I was a little disappointed. Not that I thought that necessarily she was going to win the Belmont Oaks, but I did think she would run better than that. And she just didn't. First of all, she didn't come close to being competitive, and you know, if we're being honest here, she didn't run nearly as well as Mayday Ready did in that race. So, you know, we'll see how much ground she can make up on that horse, and then maybe on some of the others too. I still think that she has a lot of talent, though. I mean, each of her first 3 starts, in fact, she ran really well in all of them. And maybe it's just as simple, David. It usually isn't, but maybe it is that getting back to a mile here instead of a mile and an eighth will really enhance her chances.
The number 5, Scarlet Sands, I did make the biggest price on the morning line, even though she's trying to win her 4th race in a row and actually 2nd stakes in a row after she won a stakes on synthetic down at Gulfstream last time. Mike, she's obviously been improving over the course of her last several starts, and she showed that improved tactical speed last time to go gate to wire, which she might try to do again here. Just looking at the competition that she's faced in those races, feels like she might be in a little bit over her head in this spot.
Yeah, that's how we looked at it. So, I mean, listen, she's in good form. They're going to step her up here and take a shot. And I have no problem with that. Again, it's not like she's meeting, you know, a super strong field here, but it does feel like everybody else in here is better than she is. And she's going to have to improve if she's going to win this.
And we'll round out our discussion with the number 6, Raining Flowers, drawn in the widest post in the 6-horse field. We'll take a look at the replay of her most recent race when she just missed in the Lake George at Saratoga. And Mike, this is another race that featured Classic Q, who also finished just ahead of Play with Fire, who we talked about first in our rundown. Classic Q, I think you could argue, ran the best race this day because she was contesting an honest pace that started to come apart at the end. And you could argue that Raining Flowers was sort of taking advantage of the race flow as she was rallying up the inside at the end. It never looked like she was quite going to get there, but she does make it pretty close, saving all that ground coming through on the inside. I'm wondering if you agree with what I said earlier, that maybe if anybody's running style is compromised in this race, it could be hers, because it's hard to see her forward in here.
Yeah, it is. If you go back and watch any of her turf races, it's not like she has a ton of early pace. It feels like she's going to be at the back early in here, and that could really hurt her. Listen, she ran really well last time. I appreciate that she finally. It felt like that was the first spot for her, the Lake George, where she could really fire her best shot, because she's another one. She came back up the layoff. She got rained off. She caught a really soft turf course and the Pen Oaks and just sort of ran evenly in there. So it felt like getting firm turf last time. Maybe you would see her improve for the first time as a 3-year-old. She did. She ran great in there at a big price, but she won't be that kind of a price in here.
Yeah.
And maybe she doesn't get quite the same setup this time either. So that made me sort of turn away from her a little bit. But I do think she can beat these horses.
Let's go to picks for this Lake Placid. And Mike, I think we both went to some pretty logical options on top. You took the number 1 Play with Fire, who has just been in good form recently for a very dangerous barn.
Yeah, the only really, sort of outsider opinion that I tried is to maybe give Warming one more chance here as she cuts back to him. Because, again, I do think she's talented and she'll probably be a fair price in here. I couldn't talk myself into putting her on top. I just think this is a good spot for Play with Fire.
Yeah, I also considered Warming, as you could see, but something you were saying earlier, I just thought Mayday Ready ran better last time when I watched that replay of the Belmont Oaks, and I feel like between the two favorites, I could get a slightly better price on Mayday Ready, just given the connections that she goes out for, so I gave her the edge. 3, 4, 1, 2 for me. Mike's going 1, 4, 3, 6 in the Grade 2 Lake Placid. Race 7 on Travers Saturday at Saratoga. Good luck if you're playing the races this weekend.